2, 3, go. I am whole, I am complete, I lack nothing, I have no need, blessed beyond measure, joy overflows, glorious expression, shining light, sharing love, bringing peace. I am whole, I am complete, I lack nothing, I have no need, blessed beyond measure, joy overflows, glorious expression, shining light, sharing love, bringing peace. I am whole, I am complete, I lack nothing, I have no need, blessed beyond measure, joy overflows, glorious expression, shining light, sharing love, bringing peace, shining light, sharing love, bringing peace, shining light, sharing love, bringing peace.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us here at CSL Parker today. I extend to you my warmth and my welcome to all of those in the member community here, as well as our global family. My name is Dr. Nadine Rogers, and I am the interim senior minister here at Parker, and I have to say, it's just a wonderful honor to be walking this path of conscious evolution with each and every one of you. You know, this month in October, we start a new theme, and it is called Living as a Compassionate Conduit. Here we're going to learn to advocate for the infinite potential of spiritual truth within all people in all matters at hand. So I think an appropriate place to begin might be to light our unity candle. Now we do so in the knowing that this light symbolizes the ongoing transformative power of spirit which lives in each of us equally, uniting us all in this truth and in the courage it takes to live generously and compassionately. Here at CSL Parker, we learn to apply spiritual principle to our everyday lives, based upon the teaching of the Science of Mind of Spirit written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Now, Dr. Holmes summarizes his teaching by saying it is a correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of world religions applied to human needs and the aspirations of man. He believes that we live in a spiritual universe and that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. He also advocates that everything we think we need or we think we lack is only and ever found within us. As CSL Parker is an inclusive community, we honor all mindful paths to the one and are learning together how to celebrate and honor diversity, as well as rejoice and become stronger in what unites us. We learn to be a student with humility and awe in the vast power of good within us and within this world. We come to understand, as we walk each other home, that we teach by how we live, and that how we live becomes our prayer. So we know you are blessed here and now. And so just sit back and relax and enjoy our time of music and meditation.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
Good morning. Welcome to today's meditation. Today's selection is chosen from the Science of Mind textbook by Ernest Holmes. Let's just take a few cleansing breaths in and out and relax as we go within and receive today's message. Relax and breathe in and out. Release. In and out. My peace is found at the heart of God. The heart of God, for me, is found at the very center of my being. It does not matter how closely the confusion of the outer world presses against me. I am not even disturbed by the confusion in my immediate environment. I know that the only way to counteract confusion is to bring peace into play. Peace, I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. These words of assurance stay with me, and I hear them re-echoing in the depths of my being. Today, I surrender all of my fears, those nameless fears which have beset me for such a long time, dulling my pleasure and clouding with misery and apprehension all of my days. I am now through with fear. What, indeed, is there for a divine and immortal being to fear? Certainly not people, for I, as a divine and immortal being, so is every man, and every man is my brother. I recognize the one life principle, working in and through and inspiring the motives of everyone I contact. I do not fear sickness, disease, or death, because the eternal and perfect life animates my body and goes always about its perfect work healing and renewing that body. I am not afraid of want or lack, for the one infinite essence supplies me with everything I need all of the time. There is nothing for me to fear, for I am an inseparable part of God. I live in Him, He lives in me, and I draw upon His perfect peace. My peace is found at the heart of God.
See a scene of empty eyes. Their silence speaks that life's not fair. They feel the weight of all their hunger, and I feel the weight of their despair. That's a burden hard to bear. Well, I can't change the world, but I can live with open hands. I can't change the world, but I can give all that I can. And I can pray and I can love. And when all is said and done, I can't change the world, but I can change the world for one. Hope can drown in so much need. That's a poor excuse to turn away, 'cause I have seen a grateful smile shining on a child's face, and that's why I have faith. Well, I can't change the world, but I can live with open hands. I can't change the world, but I can give all that I can. And I can pray and I can love. And when all is said and done, I can't change the world, but I can change the world for one. Half a world away, just across the street. May my eyes be open to anyone in need. Well, I can't change the world, but I can live with open hands. I can't change the world, but I can give all that I can. And I can pray and I can love. And when all is said and done, I can't change the world, but I can change the world for one. Yeah, for one.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again. We are going to continue exploring our October theme, which is called Living as a Compassionate Conduit. Now, last week I spoke about the interrelationship between cultivating a generous heart as a path of living as a compassionate conduit. But today I've chosen a topic that gathers perhaps just a little more juice for debate, which is be for something and against nothing. So I'm going to ease into it a bit by beginning with a story. In the late 1900s, environmental activist Julia Butterfly Hill spent 2 years living in a redwood tree she named Luna. Her goal, of course, was to save it from being cut down by a logging company. She succeeded both literally and mythically. Luna was spared death, as was a surrounding 3-acre swath of trees. So Hill became an inspiring symbol of artful, compassionate activism. Later she told Benjamin Tong in the DVD The Taoist and the Activist, "So often, activism is based on what we are against, what we don't like, what we don't want. And yet we manifest what we focus on. And so we are manifesting yet ever more of what we don't want, what we don't like, what we want to change." She said, "For me, activism is about a spiritual practice as a way of life." And I realized that I didn't climb the tree because I was angry at the corporations or the government. I climbed the tree because I fell in love with redwoods. I fell in love with the world. So it's my feeling of connection that drives me, instead of my anger or my feeling of disconnection. Wise words. Living as a compassionate conduit by being for something and against nothing. So can we swap out our concerns about what we don't want for openness? Is our defending nature, life pushing against, wrong, or is it opening to good? Is it rejecting a part, or is it accepting the whole? I had a conversation with one of our congregants this week, and she made the statement, I wanted to share it with you. She said, "I live like there's no negative or positive, just good expressing at different energetic frequencies." Pretty metaphysical to me. Compassion interrupted. Ah, yes, our judgments. Can we realize that our judgments are rooted in the core belief that there is more than one thing going on? Or maybe by saying an infinite intelligence, whole and complete within itself, that we don't believe is the power of back of all creation? In other words, we believe in more than one power. This brings about an either-or mindset rather than a both-and mindset, and sets us on a trajectory of me and them, expanding the great divide, both within ourselves and, of course, within our worldview. Is the pearl pushing against the shell or expanding into life? The answer is found in the result. Some would say it is doing one or the other. Some would say it is doing both. Again, you may say this is semantics, but the core belief and intention of the act bears the fruit, and it needs the act for its potential to become fully realized. So how do we understand be for something and against nothing within our own lives? There was a conversation on the minister's listserv this week, which began with a vulnerable admission of one minister towards observing her judgment of those not contributing, or contributing in a way that she felt was not of high consciousness. So I'm going to share with you one of the responses that I really liked. This other minister said, "With great respect to you, you are fighting effects. Try to stay with your higher knowing. There is good emerging. How it gets here is not the issue. I would encourage you to stop deciding who is right, who is light, and who is wrong. Just know that life is forever becoming more of itself by means of us. Stay with those ideals, that love within the most inclusion will prevail. Stick with the truth. Life is for us and never against us. It will always right the outer as we stay tuned to the inner light. We are not the light. We are the lamp through which it shines. Remember some of those famous quotes. An eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. Or happiness is what you think, what you say, and what you do when they're in harmony. Now, those quotes were both made up by Mahatma Gandhi. A few more that I like, that I think are relevant to this talk. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just the first step. I have held many things in my hands and have lost them all. But the things I placed in God's hands, I still possess. Now, those last 4 quotes were from Martin Luther King. With so much tension, confusion, fear, and grief, up close and personal in the world today, using the power of sacred community as our safe space welcomes us to take an honest look at some of the collective and individual root causes that drive us to escape. Now, these root causes can show up wearing many hats indeed. Passing the buck, greed, power, injustice, inequality, hate crimes, and soul crimes. A systemic disease that is rooted in the belief that multiplicity doesn't come from unity, that we are not one humanity, which in turn bores inflexible patterns of belief in dualism, propagating our separatism in all that we don't understand. A dualistic worldview prevents us from receiving and then giving back to this world the innate inherent qualities born within all of us as spiritual beings. And I'm speaking primarily of peace and joy and love. Now, we are all well advantaged as students of the science of mind. We know that all that we need already exists within us, that we don't have to create ourselves, rather discover what has already been given and reveal that. Would you agree? We know that peace exists and that it's up to us to do whatever it is that we need to do to call it up into our own experience. For in order to express inner peace, we must be inner peace. The last quote I wish to share with you by Martin Luther King is this: our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things we matter. So what matters to us? I ask you that. I ask myself that. Are we vocal or silent about what matters to us? And how are we directing our subconscious mind, the creative medium of mind, the law of our being, in voicing what matters to us? Be for something and against nothing. What do we use when we want to understand this at a deeper level? And I would like to keep the idea of peace in the forefront as our example. You know, sometimes we rail and fight against a condition when we can really align with the energy of what it is that we truly deeply value, what matters to us, like peace. We understand that outer peace grows from inner peace, and that in order to experience inner peace, we must first express peace. Now, Dr. Holmes says demonstration before knowledge. It's one of my favorite principles that he has taught. In other words, we know nothing, understand nothing, we'll never know true peace unless we be for something, which means be for peace rather than against war. Be for peace rather than against injustice. And demonstrate or express peace in place of our resistance to what we perceive as wrong or unjust. Do you see the difference? It is not semantics. I remember Noam Chomsky saying something, and it really bothered me when I first heard this quote. He said, of course everyone says they're for peace. Hitler was for peace. Everybody is for peace. The question is, what kind of peace? Eckhart Tolle says it in another way. He says, if the quality of our consciousness creates our experience or our reality, then what creates the quality of our consciousness? I mean, look at all the things that separate us: borders, fences, walls, cultures, origins, constitutional rights, politics, education, economics, and social status. Then there's gender, religion, sexual preferences, boiled in one pot called diversity. There are just so many places to see the face of God present in it all, are there not? Krishnamurti speaks to the idea of coming back to oneness and its nature as peace in one of my favorite books called The Flame of Intention. He believes that the way you approach a problem, a non-actualized desire or a perceived conflict, is more important than the problem itself. Generally, he says, we approach a problem with fear or a desire to go beyond it, to fight against it, to escape from it, or totally neglect it, or just put up with it. How do you approach a problem? Do you come near or do you go far away? Do we lend it our voice or do we lend it our silence? Our motives dictate our approach. So do you observe the problem and see the answer within it, or do you try and apply a solution? What is your perception? And what does seeing mean to you, and what is the difference? If we, the observer, approach fear or a problem as though it were different than us, something we must resolve or suppress or even understand, then division and struggle comes into it. He ends there. I begin by saying, and then comes the spaghetti. You know, the need to fill up with warmth, heaviness, feet on the ground, the need for a pacifier. So digest this and see how it tastes. Unless we are congruent in thought, word, and deed, from a belief that peace, as our example, already exists as a universal truth, and expressed from that truth, we cannot know peace. If we say I believe in peace as a man-made experience, then it will elude us. If we say I can create peace, then it will not be sustainable. If we look at peace as in existence as opposed to violence, then we will not recognize true peace. If we open to receive that peace is the universal quality of harmony and wholeness, and are an open, conscious channel for that peace, the energy of that peace to move through us, then we shall know peace. Whatever spiritual value you would like to see operating in and through your world, you must carry that energy forward. Now, in our community's after chat, much of the conversation last week circled around judgment and compassion, and the bridge between the two being our capacity to be vulnerable. Living as a compassionate conduit by being for something and against nothing asks us to become vulnerable in our interactions, seeing others as equal, and all the while being ever so gentle with ourselves as we begin to rebuild our core belief system, moving our perception from dualism to oneness. Vulnerability and surrender are often used in the same context. My view is that we must choose to allow ourselves to be vulnerable in order to begin the journey of surrender, which is the opening and welcoming of life as it shows up and being fully present in it. We have the principles of this teaching in the universal creative process to support us as we begin to neutralize the false beliefs that make up our core belief systems, which are when we are separate instead of when we are one. So let's begin with gratitude for how the infinite intelligent mind of God creates effortlessly by moving energies about, carrying its nature forward into endless forms and expressions of itself. Remembering that its mind is being used through the specific imprints received by the energy of our deep belief and desire, and it responds and brings to us with infinite possibilities a form or an experience energetically equal to that imprint. Therefore, attracting through us the exact right and perfect people, resources, and situations for the next revelation within that we require to shine the light of truth on a dimmed part within us. All of this to bring us more in alignment with truth. So what matters most to you? Are you giving your voice to it? Oh, yes. I'm going to add this one last question to the mix, just for fun. Well, maybe it's for really deeper contemplation. Is the peace we seek a peace that keeps us comfortable in our surroundings, safely cloaked inside an undisturbed identity we have so carefully, sometimes unconditionally, and often painstakingly built and preserved? Now, there's no need to rush that answer. Take small steps. Saunter in the Holy Land, and the answer will be revealed to you. Just take a breath with me and visualize and feel this idea of sauntering. I have a story to share with you. It's about turning anger into compassionate awareness. Walking back from school one day in 1945 in rural India, an 11-year-old boy threw his pencil nub in the bushes. It had become too short for use, but as the night fell, he was sent back with a torch to search for the pencil. The boy's grandfather had refused him a new writing implement and insisted he find the old one, which took the boy 2 hours. Now, if it seems strange and a strange overreaction, or a case of extreme stinginess on the behalf of the grandfather, it becomes a bit easier to comprehend once you learn that the schoolboy was Arun Gandhi and the grandfather Mohandas Gandhi. We all know that he was a nonviolent civil disobedience movement leader. Now, when I finally found the pencil, Arun says, and brought it to him, my grandfather said, "Now I want you to sit here and learn 2 very important lessons, Arun. The first is that in the making of a simple thing like a pencil, we use a lot of the world's natural resources, and throwing them away is violence against nature. The second lesson is that because we overconsume all of these things, we are depriving people elsewhere of these resources, and they have to live in poverty, and that is violence against humanity." Arun says that was the first time I realized that the little things we do every day, overconsumption, judging people, are a form of passive violence. One of the most highly evolved states of consciousness is one where we search for a state of non-searching. Now, this is the thought that doesn't often dawn on us when we're so busy dedicating ourselves in some manner to transform or to self-improve. When we lay down the agenda, even to be present, we are simply left with this moment now. You know, some of my most profound moments of peace have come at times when my mind and body are in great turmoil or not feeling well, as I just choose to stop giving myself into life. That's what happens for me then. And you know, I'm simply left with surrendering to life in the moment. Here is peace. It's a strange dichotomy to the mind, but it has a way, I would say, that calls life into its innate and perfect wholeness. And it unfolds us in its arms when we are aware of all seeming paradox. And yet, we can still deeply know peace. So are we receptive to the idea of being for something and against nothing as a way to live? Ernest Holmes says, we have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the physical world. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our lives and set us free, satisfied and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new life. I'd like to close with this from Oriah Mountain Dreamer. She says, there is nowhere to rest your eye that does not behold the face of the beloved. There is nothing here but you and God is one, and no real harm can ever be done to either. So what is there to forgive? It is hard to deep and see this perspective, to remember the truth when things get crazy and we fear the worst. All I can do is go back to my breath and remember that the Holy Spirit is what fills me with every inhale. How could it be otherwise? When we get it, all this anguish seems so unnecessary. When we lose it, suffering seems to be the only option. All things have their roots planted in the same sacred soil. Nothing is excluded from the sacred ground of being. What would happen if we remember this? What place would be unsuitable for a shrine? Brothel or barn? Crack house or cathedral? All sacred. What person would not be another yourself, shining and holy face in the sacred mystery? Remember this when you look at those you call your enemies, even your darkest secrets, the things about yourself that make you cringe. Do you think the sacred presence is not large enough to include all of these? How small our notion of God is. How our ideas fail to even guess at the depth of the passion of the beloved. And how the beloved feels for us. Open your eyes. See, there is nothing here but you and the beloved. And no real separation between these two. Now that should make you smile. So I am going to take the next 75 days until the end of 2020 to practice sauntering in the Holy Land. I invite you to join me, to honor all of those, including ourselves, that have stood for something, and that something is one humanity. Please join me in affirmative prayer. There is one light, one life, one God, one humanity, one world, one heart, all inspired by love, moving through the law of its being, which always says yes, and is full of infinite possibility, and intelligence and wisdom that is so readily and selflessly shared. So I speak my word for myself and everyone here present listening, and everybody in the world that is listening and being called and pulled to that idea of love and compassion, knowing that all is well in the world, no matter what is going on. That each one of us has the desire and capacity to be that love and open the channel for compassion to flow through us. For each of us, desire to love and be loved. It is the root of the root. It is our very DNA. It is what we are here for. It is our purpose on this human journey, so that we may know that we are one with the one, that life is good, that there is nothing missing, that this universe is for us. And so we rest in this truth in great gratitude for this truth and for exactly how life is showing up. I release these words knowing the law in its immutable and affirmative wisdom takes them and returns them back to me multiplied and overflowing. Thank you, Spirit. And so it is. Amen. So up next, what's going on in our center? We've got classes and events that give you an opportunity to connect and have fun, and most of all, be supported in your spiritual journey. And now I invite you into a personal investment that I like to refer to as sacred and faithful giving. Knowing that there is an infinite flow of abundance that is operating in and through us in life at all times, no matter our present circumstances, we can open to expand our consciousness of acceptance by giving with a grateful heart. And you know, when our souls are fed by the practice of giving through this knowing, we can be certain that our gift both blesses the giver and the receiver many, many times over. So for your convenience, we provide you various ways in which to make your contribution. You can click at the box at the top of the screen. You can donate on our website or via Zelle, or if you're more comfortable, you can mail a check to our new mailing address. You know, we receive and appreciate your gifts and your tithes, and we thank you for supporting us to continue remaining a vital and thriving center in which you can find your spiritual nourishment. So I invite you now to affirm your prosperity through the power of your own word by saying this with me. I attract all good things into being. The power of my faith enhances my experience of health, relationship, finance, fulfillment, passion, purpose, and joy. The creative source in my life is in a constant state of perfection, freely giving itself as my bounty. And so it is. And now, our offering song.
I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm boldly here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Please join me in our benediction. We've been blessed by your presence here and the presence of all those who have come together this morning. All is well here. All is well here because we know that the source of all, the creative mind and spirit, is moving within the life of me and of you and of all humanity as divine right action is taking place. It is giving itself fully, selflessly, guiding, guarding, and directing us in ever-expanding, loving expressions that we have for ourselves and that we share and give to others. As infinite love and wisdom is the nature of life itself, this means that all creation is of value and is valued, that there is enough for all, and that each of us are enough just the way we are. We give thanks, therefore, for who and whose we are, and we call upon our own inner wisdom to live as compassionate conduits, even in the face of perceived divisiveness. It's everyone's desire to be loved and to give love. And so in knowing this, we see and we receive and we activate the nature of all as love. And in this way, we can move upon our world knowing that the power of light, of peace, of joy, of truth, and of love always prevails. Life is a blessing, and so are we, and so it is. Amen. And now our closing song.
To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is the thinking that the heart can still be saved, and the darkness can come quick. The danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibility, and heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more.